Today we're going to go game by game, matchup by matchup, and give you a sneaky start for each one of those matchups. We're looking at players who are not likely to hit in fantasy, but could have the potential to exceed expectations. This video is for those fantasy football players who are struggling with their lineups, who are having to put in jabronis in their flex spot, who are hurting at wide receiver, who's getting killed by the bye weeks this week, since there's a lot of them. I'm here for you, and this is why I do this video every week, for those people who are having trouble with their waiver wire, so you can find a jabroni player who has a good situation for the week, and you can just stash them in your lineup, see what happens, and I give you 12 of them, one from every game, and you just pick your poison. But what you need to pick right now is that subscribe button. Tap it with the finger on your phone, click it with the mouse on your computer, whatever you need to do to get the job done. I'm helping you with the waiver wire every day. We're covering it extensively. You're going to need me for your research next year because we cover these players with advanced analytics every single day, helping you pick the players you want to draft, seeing who you want to get in what round, seeing the values and everything else. We also help you set up your lineups like we do with this video. Click that button, stop missing out. Let's dig into this. The first matchup we're looking at today, Arizona Cardinals at the Pittsburgh Steelers. Vegas has a 41.5 over-under on this game. Spread's moderate for this matchup, but looking at this, when we look at the trends here, Dortch is heating up. He's seen 17 targets in his last two games with a 20.3% target share. Michael Wilson's out of the lineup with a shoulder injury. Marquise Brown has been dealing with a heel. He's probably going to play through it, but he has been limited throughout the week with that. Dortch has been seeing a lot of targets. Dortch has been productive off and on over these last 2 years. He just sneaks away with targets here and there. Pittsburgh is allowing 36.2 PPR fantasy points per game to wide receivers, so some of that could trickle to Dortch. So this is a good matchup for him if you're looking for a jabroni wide receiver to hit. Now we're looking at the Falcons at the New York Jets. We got a 34 over under. Vegas is stay away, but we still got to pick a player here, a player that could surprise us. The targets and touches are very concentrated with both teams, so it's really hard to nail a guy that's going to surprise us. But Breece Hall's dealing with a hamstring. He's been limited in practice all week. He might be on the field. He's questionable, but still, even if he is, maybe Dalvin Cook can sneak away with something. He has not been good all year. That being said, if Hall's hamstring is lingering and maybe they allow Cook to get a little bit of extra opportunity, maybe he crosses the goal line, maybe he catches a few balls, but with this matchup, you're going to want to start your studs. Watch Izzy Albanaconda, see if he gets some opportunity, but again, I expect Breece Hall to suit up, but I don't know. I have no idea whatsoever. But with a matchup like this, with a low over-under, where the touches are concentrated, you want to start your studs, so you're not really looking for a sneaky start, but I got to pick one anyway. Dalvin Cook, if that hamstring is really limiting Breece Hall. Dolphins at the Commanders, 49.5 over-under. There's not really a sneaky start in this game because you're starting everybody. But you may not be starting Antonio Gibson, but in his last 3 games, he's seen 5 targets per game. And if the Dolphins rout the Commanders, they might be using him in the passing game a little bit more. Remember, he's got that size-adjusted athleticism to really pop off long runs. And if he's using the passing game here, as you've seen, he hasn't been productive as of late, but in week 10 and week 9, he gave you a little bit of something. So he might be able to help you out against the Dolphins if you decide to use him. Chargers at the Patriots here. We got a 40.5 over-under. And the thing about this matchup, it's very tricky because you like to look at the Chargers and think they can move the ball downfield. But it's been up and down this season. And with the Patriots, we know it's been up and down with them as well. But maybe Ezekiel Elliott. Demario Douglas might be out of this game. Chargers, 24.3 PPR fantasy points per game, the running backs. So look like Juju Smith-Schuster, Devontae Parker, and Tyquan Thornton's going to have to step it up. But they might rely more on the run game. And if they do so, you might see some extra touches and targets going to Ezekiel Elliott. Might get some goal line opportunities if they're around the goal line. We have to see what happens there. But he could be a sneaky play due to the softer matchup here. Broncos at the Texans, 47.5 over under, 3.5 spread. So it's a little bit tight. But we're rooting for CJ Stroud in this contest, because if he can push the pace and put the Broncos in desperation mode, and with Marvin Mims seeing an increase in snaps over these last few weeks from 69% to 56 to 48, we could see him reel in a deep ball or two. And that's all you need for him to hit, because if he reels in one, that could be one catch for 50 yards, maybe a touchdown, 6, 7, 8, 10-point play. If he brings in one of those or brings in 2 deep balls, that might be enough to get you by. You're not counting on him, but that's why he's in a sneaky start video and not a must start video. Now we're looking at the Lions at the Saints here, 47 over under, and we do have a sneaky play here that's pretty easy to look at. A.T. Perry. Rashid Shaheed is out. Chris Olave is still in the concussion protocol, but he's likely to play due to him being a full participant on Friday. But look for A.T. Perry to get some work here in this matchup. Will it lead to production? We don't know, but he has seen an increase in snaps, and the Lions can push the pace. That means they might have to throw the ball a little bit more. I look for Alvin Kamara to do a little bit extra work in the passing game, but A.T. Perry might get his opportunity this week, and you may want him in your lineup. Colts at the Titans, 42.5 over under. You can run on the Colts. You can pass a little bit on the Titans. Who are we going to look at here? Tajay Spears, because he was already productive on the Colts in week 5, and maybe we can do it again. The coaching staff already mentioned in the media they want to get Tajay Spears a little bit more involved. He's been explosive. The snap share's been up and down, but he's been splitting a lot of work with Derrick Henry, and the Colts can push the pace a little bit, and if that pace gets pushed, they may want to use Spears in the passing game. This could be the second time in the season where he scores fantasy points on the Colts. Now we're looking at the Panthers at the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Looking for a sneaky start is kind of easy here because you're watching the Tampa Bay Buccaneers week in and week out. Teams don't run on them. They throw it on them. They throw it deep. They're a pass funnel defense. Can Bryce Young connect with his wide receivers? Jonathan Mingo in his last 3 games has seen a 19% target share. Hasn't been killing it in fantasy. Hit 10 fantasy points last week, and that was in a pass funnel game against Tennessee. Might see that again this week. If you're looking for a stopgap wide receiver, he's getting targets and opportunities. He has been cleared to go for this week, so you might be throwing him in your lineup if these bye weeks and injuries are killing you. Niners at the Eagles, 47 over under. Even though there's a higher implied point total, both of these teams have stud players, and the touches and targets get concentrated to them. So really, you got to look at the backups, and the odds are against them from really hitting the home run. Like Elijah Mitchell might be a sneaky start. He is seeing a little increase in snaps because they're using him as a meat shield for McCaffrey a tiny bit to allow him to get ready for the playoffs so he can be more ready, but they're still using McCaffrey a ton. But still, when I look at this matchup, it's really hard to peg a sneaky start because you know where the touches and targets are going. Maybe he breaks off a long run. Maybe he gets a touch around the goal line. You're looking for something like that. Browns at the Rams, 40 over under, lower implied point total. But now we got Joe Flacco. That changes things. Elijah Moore. He runs a lot of short routes, gets a lot of short targets, had 20% target share in his last 2 games. His target share is starting to heat back up with these new quarterbacks. It was lowering prior to that, but it was around 20% earlier in the season. He's still a good wide receiver, just not really that great in fantasy. He has been productive in weeks 10 and 11. He can be productive in fantasy because he is getting enough workload. When you have a 20% target share wide receiver on the waiver wire, pick them up, see what happens. Joe Flacco is a huge variable here. It could be horrible, or it could be a lot of short passes here to the running backs and Elijah Moore and to some other jabronis in the passing game. Chiefs at the Packers, 42.5 over under. Really hard to peg a sneaky start. Pretty much every wide receiver for the Chiefs is a sneaky start. But when we look at the run game, A.J. Dillon, a lot of people are out on him. But with Aaron Jones out, we should see an increase in snaps and an increase in touches. Should be good enough to get you by 10, 11 fantasy points. Should be somewhere around there. Probably not going to win your week unless he crosses the goal line once or twice, but still enough to get you by and get you rolling. Now to our Monday night matchup, Bengals at the Jaguars, 38.5 over-under. We got quarterback issues with the Bengals, could slow things down, but we have an injury to think about, and that's to Travis Etienne with the rib injury. Could be in, could be out, could be limited, could be losing a little bit of touches here to allow him to be on the mend. D'Ernest Johnson is a running back to pay attention to because his touches and snaps have been increasing by the week. Hasn't been fantasy relevant, but again, touches are touches, and you're hurt at running back. You got to look somewhere. You could be looking at D'Ernest Johnson to see what happens. Could be a guy to put in your lineup to get you by for the week. But those are 12 sneaky starts for week 13. Let me know in the comments below, who is your sneaky start? Who are you throwing in that lineup that you do not want to, but you got to grit your teeth and bear it anyways? Don't forget to hit that subscribe button on the way out. I want to thank you for watching. Catch you on the next video.